Today on Locked On Red Wings, we preview the Traverse City Prospects Tournament, and then we talk about jersey ads and why I think they're a blight, but Scotty, maybe not.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a podcast producer for WWJ News Radio 950, while Scotty is host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Scotty, we got two really good topics to talk about today heading into the weekend. One, we're recording this on Thursday, and so as of right now, the Prospects Tournament has not began, but the first slate of games does start on Thursday here. But by the time people are listening to this, it's game day for the Detroit Red Wings prospect team. And then after we talk about that and preview that tournament for the Red Wings, we're going to talk about the jersey ads that are going to be on NHL jerseys starting this season. I think there's like 6 or 7 teams that have already showcased what their jersey ads look like. And we'll have a conversation about that, because based on what we were talking about before we were recording, sounds like we might have differing opinions, which is kind of a rare thing for us most days.
I mean, ish. I don't know. Like, I don't want to. Yeah, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. So, but to start things off, let's look at the prospects roster and just talk about
I'm pumped
things
for
to
this,
watch for.
by the way, I'm excited for the prospects tourney.
Well, for one, hockey's sort of kind of back with the starting of the Prospects Tournament. Here's the Prospect Tournament roster. As you can see, there's quite a few names that jump out at you when you look at it. You got Cross Hannes, you got Amadeus Lombardi, you got Kirill Tuateyev, I believe I pronounced that right, Elmer Soderblom, and then you have obviously Simon Edvinsson, Albert Johansson, Donovan Sabrango, Emil Viro, goaltending, you got Sebastian Kosa. But when you're looking at and you're trying to hone in on things to look at and storylines to watch, one, Max Bultman of The Athletic Detroit wrote a fantastic article on the 5 things to watch for in this Prospects Tournament. So after you get done listening to us, go read his article, because it's a great read. And we pull some of our inspiration from that article for sure. But when talking about this episode, or this weekend and these tournaments, the thing that you want to watch out for, number one, first and foremost, Scotty, is Simon Edvinsson. I think that if you're watching Simon Edvinsson, and obviously this is the guy that everyone's going to be looking at in this upcoming tournament, if he goes out and he performs and looks above and beyond what other teams are capable of, what his own teammates are capable of, I think that only solidifies his argument to starting at the NHL level. Now, granted, this is the Prospects Tournament, so there's going to be prospects that are high draft picks, low draft picks, camp invites, like Ivan is actually his full name. But there are going to be guys who are just invitees. So there are going to be guys that he's going to look way better than. But if he dominates the tournament as a whole, as a prospect, that just strengthens the argument that maybe this guy's closer to NHL ready than people think he is.
Yeah, this is like the start of the campaign, right? Like if he was to run a campaign for like why I should be on the Detroit Red Wings this season on opening night and why I should make the opening night roster, this is where it begins. This is step one, is doing and looking really well in this prospect tournament. So that's easily the number one thing that this entire fan base is going to be looking at. I can't wait. I'm so pumped, just to like watch organized like pro level hockey, but there's so many good and fun prospects in this Red Wings system that are going to be on display for this. I'm super pumped, and the headliner is obviously Simon Edvinsson. So we have a really good farm system, and he is like the best of what is remaining in that farm system that hasn't already been promoted. So the smart kid in a smart class, like it's going to be super cool. And the biggest thing again is just like, this is the beginning of his campaign for making this roster out of camp.
When you look at that defensive room as a whole, that is a very star-studded
it's
defensive room.
insane.
I mean, you have Simon Edvinsson, who was number 6 overall, first round pick just this past season, or off season rather. Albert Johansson, who's going to be making his North American debut this season, another high draft pick for the Red Wings at defense. You got Donovan Sabrango, who played very good for Team Canada along the way to a gold medal, and then also played his first full season at Grand Rapids this last year. And then you have Emil Viro, who's been a pretty steady guy on the back end over in Europe. So, I mean, that's half of your defensive core right there that are all high to mid draft picks who have all been performing very well in their own right. That's a very solid defensive core to have going into the prospects tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. That's easily the most fun, like, positional group, like, comfortably. That's a very, very fun. It's going to be really entertaining, and I'm pumped to see some, like, interesting lines, right? Like, there should be some unique lines in there of, like, I want to see Edvinson and Sabrango get some time together. I want to see Johansson and Vero, or Johansson and Edvinson. Like, I want to see them mix and match and try some stuff out. So I'm really pumped just to see how all these dudes look, obviously, but the defense especially, I think, is the one I have circled the most.
Yeah, and then on the offensive side, obviously, I think out of everyone that is at this prospects tournament, because there's no Carter Mazer, everyone's going to be looking primarily at Elmer Soderbaum, another guy who's going to be coming over from North America this year to start his professional career here, whether it's in the NHL or the AHL. I would have a guess if I had to say right now, probably Grand Rapids first. But he is going to be a guy everyone's going to be looking at. 6'8", 245 pounds. We all know what he did in Sweden this last year as an up and comer from the 6th round. And there was some video, Scotty, that came out of him at practice, and he was blowing by other Red Wings prospects. I mean, he's got speed, and then with that length and those hands, it's hard to get the puck off his stick. He's going to be someone you definitely want to keep an eye on going into the tournament.
Yeah, I think that he's definitely the highlight of the forward group, and I'm really excited. I think that maybe not mid game, or maybe if it's too much moving around, then obviously do what's best for his development always. But I'm kind of interested in moving him around to different positions. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see what, with the big frame, like how effective he is at center, obviously. But I'm also kind of interested in like, it would be really nice to have a big, like, physical winger that could just, in corners, just, go after it and, like, fear nobody kind of thing, and be really physical and use that size and, down low and whatnot. So I don't know. I hope we get to see him in a plethora of situations, I guess, is my biggest thing. Like, I just want to see him in as many unique scenarios as possible.
I think they'll be using him a lot for sure. I think the other two forwards you want to keep an eye out for too is Cross Hannes and then Amadeus Lombardi. Amadeus Lombardi caught the eye of the Red Wings coaches at development camp as he kind of came out of nowhere and really shined. So it's going to be someone to keep an eye on. And then obviously Cross Hannes as well. He was a 2nd round pick in 2020, I think. Let me double check on that. I have his page up. Yeah, 2nd round pick in 2020. Played this last season with the Portland Winterhawks, and in 63 games played at 86 points out in the Western Hockey League. Had a very impressive season last year. It looks like he is going to be making his debut professionally as well, moving to Grand Rapids if his Elite Prospects page is up to date. That's where it has him listed as a Grand Rapids Griffin player. So that's going to be a guy to watch too, to see it if this guy taking a step towards professionalism, if he's able to shine amongst all these other prospects.
For sure. I'm also, I really like, Kosa is going to be the big thing in the goalie room, obviously, but I really like Bednar getting the nod here. I really like that. I hope we get to see him a little bit.
Yeah, Kosa, obviously. Bednar, it's nice that Bednar is going to get a little bit of action, but obviously all eyes are going to be on Kosa, especially after.
They should be. But I just like him. Yeah, I just like him getting the nod and being on the roster, and, maybe getting a little bit of playing time here and there. I think that's a cool nod, and that'll be some to maybe an under the radar person to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Red Wings are going to end up playing 3 games in the prospects tournament. Some teams are playing 4, some are playing 3. The Red Wings are playing 3. Their first game is, by the time you're listening to this, it is today, Friday, September 16th. They play at 3 p.m. as they play the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then on Saturday, September the 17th at 6 p.m., they play the Dallas Stars. And then they round out the tournament with a game on Monday at 11 a.m., where they play the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, I believe there will be streams for all three games. Ken Cal and Daniela Bruce will be doing all three of those games. I'm not sure on the link for that, but I mean, if you're all listening to us, you know how to work the internet and you know how to Google
also,
things.
just follow the Red Wings Twitter, and I'm sure they will point you in the direction they want you to watch it. So
I think
I'm
in the
sure
past
that
they streamed it on Twitter. So
yeah, I'm sure that they will point you in the right direction. I don't know how to get it right now, but I know for a fact I will be able to on Friday because the Red Wings marketing and social media department is very good. So.
But when we come back, we're going to talk about the jersey ads that are appearing on jerseys, something that I've been saying was going to be coming for a long time. I think I'm not alone on that. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football needs and sporting info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's Week 2 games. As we got Chargers Chiefs tonight here on Thursday. So by the time people are listening, they don't know the outcome of that one. That's going to be an exciting game. Two really good teams going at it. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Let's transition, Scotty, and let me ask you first. Do you have any final thoughts on development camp? Or
No, I think we got everything
prospects
out there
tournament?
that we wanted to cover. Yeah, I cannot stress how excited I am. I cannot quite express and put into words how pumped I am to watch.
You know what? Let me ask you. I actually do have one more question because we talked a little bit about goaltending, but with Sebastian Cossa, do you think that he has to have a good prospects tournament to kind of reinvigorate the fan base's faith? Because I know some of I'll say the fringes of the fan base were a little shaken after his, being the backup goaltender at the World Juniors, and then at the canceled World Juniors, he was the third string. People were a little shaken up in their faith in that 15th overall pick. Do you think he needs to have a good tournament to reestablish that faith?
He shouldn't. I guess there are some fans that are just looking for a sign of hope. I guess maybe, but like he had a decent year last season. He shouldn't. He should not need to perform well for 3 games against other prospects to re-jolt your opinion of him or whatnot. Like it shouldn't really. Only if it helps the narrative. We've been over this a million times, right? Like it should only be positives coming out of the tournament. But no, joking aside, like I really don't think that it should. No, I mean obviously I want him to do well every single time he goes out there. He's part of the Red Wings organization, and that's going to be the expectation at some point. But we are still so far away from him even sniffing an NHL roster that I can't imagine being of the mindset that he needs to do something specific for anybody really in the organization or the fan base. I just can't imagine that that's the case.
I agree with you for what it's worth. I just figured it was worth posing the question because there are, like I said, people out there who are a little bit nervous after what has happened with him so far after winning the WHL, what has happened at higher levels. But I'm with you. It's still plenty of time to be patient with him. But on that note, let's move on. The NHL, there were leaks last year that they were going to go forward with putting jersey patch advertisements on their, jerseys. And there have been like 7, 8, or 9 teams that have them thus far. And
depending on when you're listening to this, that you know what I mean. That's at the time of recording. Even they're going to keep rolling them out. So
yeah, I think I heard about half the teams have them and half don't. The Montreal Canadiens have probably the ugliest of them all. It's just a bright blue and yellow patch on their red and blue jersey, and it stands out like a sore thumb. It's hideous. The Washington Capitals have a Caesar Sportsbook ad. The Pittsburgh Penguins have a Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield patch. The Coyotes have a Gila River patch, and then the Blues have a patch for some company I've never heard of called Stifle. Golden Knights have a Corca Sports Minnesota Wild they have a giant ugly patch. It's a huge square like this big.
It's
like
large.
Tria. And Blue Jackets probably have the best one I've seen so far in Safe Light, where it's integrated. It's just the logo integrated into the jersey. So I guess my question is before I get into my rant, in my opinion, Scotty, what do you make of the jersey ad movement?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that are very upset about it, and I totally understand. Um, and yes, I'm not an advocate for it. I don't want it like per se.
Scotty says
But
more ads, actually.
right, like I'm not advocating for this to happen. I don't want this to happen. I'm not a fan of it, but I do think that in 6 months, nobody will care because that's what happened in the NBA. Everybody freaked out when they first said that they were doing it, and everyone was super upset, including myself. We were like, this is dumb. And then most teams picked companies that look or integrate well into the color scheme that's already in place. And if you don't, that's your own fault, but whatever. And they mixed them in, and then people just like forgot about it and stopped caring before this first season of it even ended. Like nobody talks about the fact that the NBA has ads on it anymore on their jerseys. Like nobody cares because it's like not a big thing. It's not like it's taken up the entire of the sweater. And yeah, it's something that people are and you know, like I understand that the Detroit Red Wings have an insane history that is not matched by too many other organizations and teams in sports history, nonetheless just basketball or the rest of hockey or whatnot. And you want to keep it true. I agree with all that. And I understand. Again, I'm not like a big fan of this happening, but I'm also not gonna like freak out and shout from the rooftops about how mad I am about it because I know because I've seen it before in another sport that we all follow that by the All-Star break nobody's gonna care and everybody's gonna have forgotten about it. It's not even gonna be talked about anymore. Like that's just how it's gonna go, and people are gonna forget. You know, you might have a comment here or there like, oh wow, like I still can't believe that so-and-so, like the Clippers had Bumble when they first did it, which is like a bright yellow ad on their red, white, and blue jerseys. And everybody was like, that looks bad. And they talked about it all year. Guess what? The next season they dropped Bumble. They just like changed it. Like it's not like a rocket science thing. And if it looks bad, eventually it'll get changed because enough people will complain about it. And like, I don't know. I don't think it's some like catastrophic thing that a lot of people are making it out to be. That's all. And I don't think anybody is going to be thinking about it by game 40 when they sit down and watch the Red Wings. Nonetheless, game like 15 or 20 even.
I think that you are right about most people, that most people probably will just get used to it. But that is exactly the reason why I didn't want it to get started in the first place. I still look at helmet ads, and I think these are ugly. Get rid of them, especially certain teams that have like ones that don't blend well. The Red Wings are fortunate that the Meyer ad and the UWM ad that they've had on their helmets blended fairly well. But some teams don't go that far. But even I didn't even want their foot in the door because I am vehemently opposed to any sorts of advertisements on uniforms because we already have advertisements on the boards. We already have advertisements on the ice, and that continues to grow. It started off with just the advertisements around the center circle. Now we get advertisements in the corners. Now we get digital ads by the blue lines. We get digital ads posted on the glass. So call me a hockey elitist, a hockey snob, a hockey boomer, whatever you want to call me. But the moment they touched the uniforms, I was incensed, and I still remain incensed about it. This is where I understand where you're coming from, Scotty, and you're right. Most people are going to stop caring, but I won't stop caring because I think it's a blight on the sport to put jersey ads on jerseys, but advertisements on jerseys is horrifying. There are two versions of jerseys, or two versions of these ads that look, one that looks horrible and one that looks great, and I will concede. I'll throw them up right here. So you have first the RBC logo on the Montreal Canadiens jersey. That is horrible. It's bigger than the captain's C on his jersey, and it looks atrocious. But then on the other hand, you have a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets who found a way to integrate it very seamlessly. So, I mean, if you have to have it, which it looks like we have to have it at this point, this is how you want it to look. It's small, it's not in the way. But the fact that we have to have it, first of all, we don't have to have it. This is not something we need. This is just something that NHL teams are looking at improving profits. By the way, not that much. Some of these NHL teams, reports are coming out that they're getting as little as $10 million a year extra for this, which for you and me is a lot, but for these organizations is not a lot of money. So I'm vehemently opposed to it because you're tainting, in some cases, jerseys that have gone untouched or unchanged for nearly 100 years, besides small tweaks to their uniforms, to sell out for corporate advertising. And it's just, to me, it is unexcusable. And the Red Wings haven't announced a new one, or haven't announced one yet. And I pray they don't, although I have a gut feeling they will, because obviously they did it with the helmets. But I knew from the moment that they put a logo on the helmet that this was going to be the next step. And on my previous podcast, before I was on Locked On Red Wings with you, Scotty, I had Max Bultman on with my old podcast, The Breakout, with my buddy Josh, and we talked about it, and he was like, I don't really care, which is his opinion, and I respect it. I get that some people just like, it's still hockey. People, and he was with you, like, people aren't going to care in a few months. But I knew this was going to be the door. They were opening the door to jersey advertisements, and here we are. We're sitting here in 2022 looking at actual NHL jerseys with actual advertisements on it. And I know I probably sound like an elitist or a snob, like, who cares? And I'll probably
a lot of people agree with you, man.
I'll probably get used to it over time too, but I'll never like it and I'll never approve of it, because especially when it comes to the Red Wings, well, how much is that uniform met over the years? Who has worn that uniform? For it to have potentially a horrible logo on it, even if it's like that Safe Flight logo on the Blue Jackets uniform where it blends seamlessly in. Like, the Pistons do a good job. They had Flagstar and they had UWM. The Flagstar one stood out a little bit, actually, because it was kind of a bright red brick. The UWM one looked a little bit better. But just for that to be on there is just insulting to fans. Like, we give you so much money already. Like, some of us revolve our life around you. And just to sell out like that, it just feels insulting. That's just where I come from, man. I just don't like it at all, and I'll never like it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't like it, and will never, and will always. I will always prefer it had not happened. I agree with that. My point is, I know you will not be this passionate about it for the rest of your life. Like, you won't.
Here's the
and
thing.
At some point, you're just going to be like, yeah, like the Red Wing, I don't like it, but like they have them on there. That's what happened. Again, what happened to me with the Pistons, what happened to a lot of people in basketball. Like, yeah, like it sucks. And I'd rather it didn't, but it's not going to stop me from watching Red Wings hockey. I'm not going to be sitting there every single night watching the Wings like, oh, like this would be a lot better if we didn't have a tiny white speck on our shoulder. Like you're going to adapt and you're going to get used to it as much as, even if you don't want to, like you will.
I know, but just because you will get used to it, does that make it okay that it's happening? Because then the question is the slippery slope argument, right? Where does it end?
That I think is the argument here. I completely agree with that. I don't want a full jersey. I don't want soccer to happen. I don't want a full jersey of 9 ads on it. I completely
the
agree
European
with that.
hockey leagues. Now, I want to say I don't think that'll ever happen to that extent, because one, the reason why those leagues in Europe, the hockey leagues in Europe, do it is because they actually need the money. Like, it's a critical to their funding.
Well, the hockey leagues for sure.
The hockey leagues. In the NHL, they don't need that, but they didn't need this jersey yet. So that's where you could see people making the argument that it is going to come eventually. I don't want that door to be opened. That door should have remained closed. It should have remained locked. I mean, watch the games. I'm not even on I've already gone over the on ice, the digital ads that we already get. First of all, it's also a crime that we don't have Stanley Cup playoffs by the blue line anymore because of the digital ads. That's another thing. That is something that we lost because of advertising and money and capitalism. The pursuit of more money is to have the Stanley Cup playoff paint and the Stanley Cup Finals paint on the ice, which is something that was supposed to be special for those teams that clinched those spots. We don't get that anymore. We lost that. But you watch the game on television and you're inundated with advertisements as well. You get in-game commercials. Well, they'll throw up a second screen, make the hockey game and football game and baseball game and basketball game smaller to give you a quick 15-second advertisement. We're so inundated with advertising that when people say, when does it end? Are we going to end up with entire jerseys full of advertisements? I can't look them in the eye with a straight face and go, no, we won't, because it has happened and it is coming. It is something that's coming along. I want to say that it won't happen to the extent of European hockey leagues, but I can't say that with a straight face because we're seeing the ever progression of advertisements. How much money do these teams need to make before they have enough? And the answer is
never.
Right.
I agree. The slippery slope argument, I think, is the best one that I can't just rebuttal it with, like, you're not going to be this passionate about it in 4 months, because that's obviously something that will forever be ongoing. And eventually, if they fill up a whole jersey, then it's just going to be, and if they do like the slow crawl, right, where they're like, oh, like, 5 years from now, we'll add a second one. And then 5 years from then, we'll add a third one. And then, you know what I mean? And then eventually people are like me are like, oh, well, what's the difference between 7 and 8? Like, who even cares, right? Like, I understand that. I very much understand that. And I agree with it. And I don't want it to go down that road either. Where it stands right now, I just, again, like, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm like pumped about it. Like, I'm not. Like, I really don't like it. And I would very much wish that this was not a door that was open. I'm not pro ads on jerseys, but I can nearly guarantee you that this is not something that, as a person watching on TV at LCA, whatever, that you are actively going to be like distracted by Red Wings hockey, just like the ads on the boards. Like, yes, if you take a step back, you're like, wow, look at a game from the 80s and look at the game today. It is drastically different. But in the middle of a scramble along the boards, or after a big hit happens or during a face-off, you're not like, I can't even watch this. There's too many ads on the screen. Like, that's not a thought that pops into your head, and it won't be for the jerseys either while you're watching the product. So I completely understand. I wish that it didn't happen either, but I've seen it in another sport I follow religiously. Like, I know that 6 months from now, 4 months from now, 2 months from now, that, opening weekend, the first couple of weeks, people are going to complain about it. They have every right to. Again, like, I'm not disagreeing with it. You have every right to be upset. I think it's stupid too, but eventually it's not going to be something that you're as passionate about as you are on the day they announced it. That's all.
I'm going to set a reminder on my phone that in 6 months we have a passionate discussion about this, just so I can be right.
Fair enough, brother. Fair enough.
All right, Scotty, any final thoughts before we send this episode into the weekend?
I don't think so, man. I'm really excited for the prospect tournament. I really am. We also have one of the Tigers minor league teams is making a playoff push, so we got kind of like their own, I don't know, prospect
Locked on Whitecaps, guys. Let's go.
I guess technically a prospect. It's eerie. Technically like a prospect tournament-ish, right? Like,
there's like 6 of them. How was I supposed to get it right? Come on now.
I mean, you could have asked, but so instead of just guessing for no reason, so that's kind of cool. But I mean, like, had a really rough week in fantasy football last weekend, so trying to get back on the horse there. Yeah, we ball.
I'm sorry about your fantasy team, buddy. I don't know what's going on, but that's got to weigh heavily on your head, on your heart.
It does.
It's a shame. Damn shame.
It is.
Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. We will be back on Monday, guys, with 5 episodes a week.
Woo!
We're
back,
baby.
We are back.
So make sure you tune in for an episode every single day. We've been saying that for the last month, and it hasn't been true. You know that? Same time, same place, your team every day.
Now we do, and now it's correct.
That's right. So here we go. 5 episodes a week. Be back on Monday. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.